You're welcome to Women's World Show. Here we use the breakthrough moment and word of a successful woman to inspire and motivate you. We measure success not by the amount of money in the pocket, but by the effort you make on daily basis to achieve your goal. We believe that every woman has a story, so share yours with us. And my name is Clara Cromberg. Joining me today is an amazing woman, yet another one, who is a cross-cultural coach. She will lead us into her world and at the same time discuss the topic of the day, which is intercultural balance. Please welcome to the show, Brenda Padilla Erickson.
Perfect.
I've been really trying to memorize it. Okay, Brenda Padilla Erickson. Thank you and welcome to the show. You have kids that have lived Quebec, Canada, France. Really very inspiring. First of all, and your kids are all bilingual. Why is it important for you to raise your children to be bilingual?
That's a really good question, a good place to start. That was one of the first issues that I faced, is how to make sure that my kids were truly bilingual. And one of the reasons why you want your children to be bilingual is because it really does help their actual, their cognitive skills. It changes the way people think to grow up bilingual. You have a better ability at abstract thinking, for example, because you grow up from the time you're small knowing that there's at least two ways to say anything or more. So bilingualism, it's very important. It's an important starting point. But for me, what was really important was for my children to be multicultural, to really understand not just the languages, but the cultures of other countries, and that other people from different places see the world in really different ways. And I wanted them to appreciate that. And language is the starting point.
Yes, because also you have one of your daughter that is, daughter or son?
Yeah, I have 4 daughters.
Okay, you have one of your daughter who is from China.
Yes.
You adopted your last child from China.
Yes, one of my daughters is from China.
Why all the way to China? Like, why? What motivates you to blend, to mix the culture that you have? You're an American, you're married to Spanish, and now you adopted a child from China. Why?
Actually, it was my husband's idea originally because he knew another family who had adopted their children from China.
Okay.
And at that time, international adoption from China was a really big trend here in Spain. Yeah. And we actually met a lot of families who were adopting one of their members from China. So that's kind of how it all started. And it's been a fantastic journey. And she's been a great addition to the family, making our family more multicultural, because it's opened all of us to Chinese culture and to learning more about China. We've traveled to China as a family.
How old was she when you
She was
adopted?
1 year old. It was her first birthday. Yes, when we met her. Yes.
Oh, really cute one, right?
Yes.
But before I, start with the cross culture, which is the topic of the day, I want to first know, why did you move from America to Spain? Why Spain? Why Marbella?
Well, I actually studied in Spain as a university student, and I went back to my country, back to Seattle actually, and thought that I might never come back here to Spain again. But You
didn't like it then?
Oh, I liked it, but it was so far away, and I wanted to be closer to my family. And I went back home, and I met a Spanish engineer there. And then we fell in love and got married and had our first child. And when she was 2 months old, we came back and lived here in Spain permanently then, since 25 years ago.
So how was it for you integrating, because you were an American and moving to Spain? There were obvious things that are not the same from your culture and the Spanish culture.
Exactly. Actually, I think that the culture of the United States and Spain is much more different than people realize. And that's something I've had to face over the years. I mean, even myself studying here, I think I didn't quite grasp it as much as what it means to live here as a mother and wife and a professional. And I've always been interested in anthropology and sociology, and so all this like trying to understand culture better. I don't want to just adapt or integrate without understanding why. So I like to get under the surface and understand the beliefs and the values and the unwritten rules of the culture. And the more I studied, the more I learned, the more I was able to make sense of it, and it became more interesting. So I don't want to just adapt to just because this is the way we do it. I do it. I want to know, why do you do it that way?
But what was your biggest challenge?
I think one of the biggest things for me coming from the United States is time, because we are very obsessed. Yes, we're very obsessed with time. And so when I first came here at the beginning, I was just I felt like I had left a country where there's a deficit of time, and I came to a country with a surplus. And I was, sometimes I loved it, but then other times I wanted to go faster and faster and faster. And my husband would say, relax, slow down, it's okay. And it's not that Spain, exactly, tranquila. It's not that it's so slow, it's just that compared to the time I was used to. So that was a big adaptation. But it was actually good for me to learn. Yeah, and I'm still learning.
Yeah, because actually it was the opposite. I came from Africa, where like Nigeria, where we have what is called African time. Some people still keep time, but some of us still do the African time there in Nigeria. Then I moved to Denmark. People are really precise with time. 9 o'clock is 9 o'clock. It's not a minute past 9. And I really, had to adjust to that as well. And I think I'm really enjoying it, because it's very good. Although sometimes you want, okay, it's now, let's just relax a little bit. But still, it is very good to keep in time. Some of the positive things I've learned. But anyway, before we get into all the intercultural, the intercultural knowledge and the balance of it all, I want us to take a little break, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back again to Women's Word Show. If you're just joining us here, we use the breakthrough moment and word of a successful woman to inspire and motivate you. My guest, Brenda Padilla Erickson, has been leading us into her word, and it's time for us to discuss the topic of the day, the intercultural balance. Brenda, we have talked about, of course, the transitioning from one country to another. You did, I did. Yes. And you are actually doing it as a profession right now to help people to transition, or rather to move from one country to another. How has it been for you, first of all, to actually allow your children to travel from one country to other? How did you teach them to open their mind to be ready for what is out there?
Well, first of all, we talk about cultural differences and similarities in our home all the time. So it's a typical conversation over dinner. And another thing I've always done with my children is share my adventures in cross-cultural training, the stories that I come across of people who are adapting to other cultures and the things that they go through in other countries, and I share that with them and explain to them like what these people are learning and what it shows us about how we should behave when we are working or living or studying in another country or with people from another culture. We're in a world where the economy is globalized. Globalization is all around us, and it's part of our life, and we need to share this with our children.
But even as an American who has transitioned from from the States to Spain, for me, I think it's important for me to maintain originality. How do you teach your clients to maintain their originality whilst integrating to a new culture?
That's a really, really interesting topic, because part of this whole adaptation process is your identity, and you don't want to lose that.
That's the thing.
Exactly. So what I teach is how to understand cultural differences, because we're happy that there's many things that humans all have in common. That's great. But what we really need is to understand the differences. And then the idea is that you appreciate other cultural differences, but you also learn how to communicate. First, you have to learn to understand your own culture. When you do that, and you're appreciating the other culture, and you're sharing what your culture is about, your values, your beliefs, the rules that operate in your culture, why you do the things that you do. you want to be looking for not let's do it my way or let's do it your way, but what's the best way in each situation that we're in. And I think that's where you're it's not so much that you have to keep your identity exactly as it is, but you want to let your identity be more fluid.
That brings me to the culture shock. Being able to, let my identity maybe go a little bit. Is it a part of saying, okay, this is not the way these people do.
Right.
I can learn their way.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
That's part of it, okay? And I think we have to understand that we all have a condition called ethnocentrism. And ethnocentrism means that we all sort of measure the rest of the world by the criteria of our culture.
Right.
Things are good or bad based on what I was taught in my culture. And every single group of humans in the world, it has this same phenomena going on, and we are all ethnocentric, okay? Yes. So the big thing with culture shock is that basically your beliefs about how what you were taught is the right way, or your values are the best, or your rules are the most practical ones, they're crashing against the values and beliefs and rules of another culture. And so what I recommend to everyone is to focus on developing curiosity. We tend to jump in to judge. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, why are they doing this? Oh, wait a second, this is not going to work. Instead of that, whenever you have this feeling, and your emotions are really the signals that tell you you're having a culture shock.
Instead of using your energy in being judgmental or, comparing,
yes, exactly.
you can use that energy in, asking questions.
Asking questions, learning, investigating, exploring. I always bring a little... what do you call it, that the detectives look through? I forget, the magnifying glass. Okay. I bring a magnifying glass to all of my trainings, really? And I pull it out and I tell people, activate your curiosity, take this out, be a detective, look around, see what you can learn. And when you have that attitude, everything changes.
This really relates to me because when I learned that you are a cross-cultural coach, I was like, this is so me and so many other women out there that I know that can relate to this particular topic, because a lot of people move around and they don't really know, why am I feeling this way? Why am I down? Why am I feeling like I'm left out? I'm the only one here. So it's just that sad moment. You heard it from the coach herself. But anyways, I'm going to ask you a few questions. What do you think, relating to when you coach, what do you think someone, a woman or someone out there, can bear in mind? The first thing, the first word you can say, bear this in mind when you are moving to this country or to any country.
Wow. Patience. I can never give up the word curiosity, okay? Because that's always there. But patience, we want everything fast. We don't like to feel bad and have to go through this time of transition. And when you're interfacing with people who have very different worldviews and ideas and values and everything from you, you need patience to get to know them, to start over, and all this investigation I'm recommending, that takes time too, and patience. It doesn't happen fast.
When one moves to a country and you're about to start your own business, or you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to pick up from where you left from, what would be the easier part to move? Is there any? I'm trying to ask the shortcut. Is there any shortcut to this process?
The only shortcut I can tell you is teaming up with people who are natives of the area. I have watched over the past 25 years as an expatriate living in Spain, and actually now I have Spanish citizenship as well. I've watched so many people who try to set up a business in another country, here in Spain I've watched, without native guides. You need people who are from here, who know how the bureaucracy works. And that's not just here, it's in any country you go to. You need to look for mentors, cultural mentors, people who can explain to you how to make good relationships with people, because in every country, every culture, you have ways of building trust, you have ways of building good relationships. what people are looking for, even in your business, to adapt it to the local area. And I think the biggest mistake I see people make is trying to just do it without any people who are natives, who are successful natives, who can join their team and give them insider information. That's the shortcut, I guarantee you. And I think that people around the world, because I've seen this, everywhere you go, you can find these little colonies of expatriates, and they're all kind of networking between each other. That's good. That's fantastic.
It's good. They work for
But we have to go farther than that.
Yeah.
If we really, especially in a global world like we live right now, where people are more and more interconnected, it's so important to reach out. And it's also for public relations and giving a good impression of who you are in this community.
Right.
You know, if they see that you don't reach out to them and you don't speak their language and don't mix with them, that sends a message as if like maybe you don't care. And
people just want to feel that connection of
definitely
you care, you want to be here.
Yes.
Anyways, we'll continue right after the break. Welcome back again to Women's World Show. If you are just tuning in, it has really been an interesting one with my guest, Brenda Padilla Erickson. She has been leading us into her world as a cross-culture coach, and at the same time, we have been discussing intercultural balance. Interesting, Brenda. And I've learned a lot, and in my head, I know that maybe I have not made so many mistakes. Moving from one country to another.
Good.
So it makes me feel good, actually.
Good.
And
so
I think a lot of women or a lot of people out there can actually relate to the, today's topic. Really means so much to me, especially.
Good.
So you have also worked with international companies, like teaching people to work with international companies and young people moving for, from maybe Spain to America to US as an exchange student. Tell me more about, the impact of teaching a young child or parents that are sending their children to another country to be an exchange student.
Yeah. Well, originally these exchange programs for teenage or adolescent students started because it's this idea of promoting world peace.
Right.
And so what you want is for these exchanges to be very successful. And originally it was really for the student. But nowadays, it's very, very important for the parents also to have an education about what's going to happen in the country where their child is going, because they're going to get all kinds of news from their child, but they won't know exactly what does it mean or how do I interpret this. So it's very important that both the student and the parents get a lot of training and orientation and that they learn about the culture, and they all need it.
What would be your first keyword to them? I always ask keyword like.
Yeah, the key word in that respect is, I would say, perception. So, I don't know if you've heard this idea that perception is reality. We all perceive the world differently.
Yes.
Well, when you go into another culture, you cannot imagine how they are perceiving the world compared to how you are perceiving the world. So I teach people a lot about perception, learning to be curious about other perceptions and to become more aware of how your perceptions are shaping your world, interpretation of those perceptions, and then the evaluation or the judgment of what you believe is happening. Like, is it good, bad, normal?
So let's summarize the word intercultural balance. What will be your summary to this? To say, this is how you can actually balance moving from one country to another.
Wow. How can you balance moving from one culture to another?
I have no idea because I've done it
I would
so many
say
times.
It's keeping an open mind with that curiosity activated, and just imagining yourself as a person who is flexible. We all want to think that we are, but when you you come in contact with things that you don't like or things that are different from what you expected, that's when you're not flexible. And so like keeping this idea in mind of flexibility. So I often try to imagine myself as an all-terrain vehicle. I can handle whatever. And when I wake up thinking that, today, in Spanish it sounds better than in English, but today I'm going to be an all-terrain vehicle. I'm going to just roll with whatever happens, and I'm not going to let anything stop me. And I'm going to be flexible, open-minded, curious, and patient. And if you do that, I think you're going to be much happier than someone who is crashing against the other culture and trying to change it and make it like their home culture.
Don't change it. Just try to adapt and be open-minded. That really says a lot. But anyway, in your words, You said you promote world peace, one
Yes.
person at a time.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Education. Education. And education can be as little as talking about a single incident and helping, just kindly trying to provide another perspective.
Right.
Or it can be giving a class, or it can be making a video on YouTube, or it can be writing an article.
Yes.
So for me, the one person at a time is sort of just realizing that even if I only helped one person learn what I've learned in these 25 years of adaptation as well and learning, that would be worth it.
Yeah,
right?
It's really it's so absolutely, because world peace is the peace. It's about actually saying you have impacted in one person to learn how to adjust or adapt in a country. That says a lot, because I resonate or I connect with or everything that you've said. You know, it says so much to me. I've said that to you before. But anyways, thank you so much for this. It's really very nice to have you. Before I let you go, we have a tradition here. Which
a cultural tradition on your show.
And this is a cultural tradition in Women's World Show. Yes, where we ask you to share a little bit, or one thing that's a little most embarrassing thing that has happened to you in recent time.
Wow.
In the light of open-mindedness or living in the moment.
Does it have to be a single incident, or can I just tell you? You know what's really embarrassing for me? And this is funny, but I am teaching all of this about curiosity, openness, adapting to cultures, but I have bad days now and then.
Oh, yeah.
So I have moments where things happen and I'm just like snapped back into my rigid, one culture, my way. And when that happens, it's so embarrassing. And you know what's most embarrassing is when my children are present, because I've taught them so much about this, and they'll say, "Mom, you are doing exactly what you say that you're not supposed to do." And I'll say, "Do as I say, not as I do." And then I tell them, you can see, and I say, "You're young and you can learn this better than I did." So even just the fact that you've seen that I made this mistake and you caught it, bravo, congratulations.
That means they really have learned a lot.
Yes, exactly.
That's funny, because, and also it's also because you are acting intentional, of course, because even though you snap out, you still, get it together, Brenda, you still put yourself together, because you're very intentional about your actions.
I try to be.
Yeah. I think you've done so well, 25 years in Spain, right?
Yep.
Amazing, well done. Anyway, before I let you go, finally, we have another tradition, which is to give you the present of the show, which is the cup right here.
Oh, nice.
It's a cup that says Women's World Show. Every woman has a story. Shares with us.
I love it.
And it's just a symbol for you to show that you have shared a little part of you, to someone out there, and just impacted in a woman. So, true Women's World Show, and I appreciate that a lot.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. I will drink my
you.
coffee every day in this
Thank
mug.
you. Take a picture and send us, and tag Women's World Show.
Definitely.
Cheers. It has been an interesting one with my guest on this episode, Brenda Padilla Erickson, who has discussed intercultural balance with me. Really very good. I relate with this one, and I hope you have learned one or two things in this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Women's World Show. Thank you for clicking on Women's World Show YouTube channel. Please remember to subscribe for more interesting videos like this. Remember, some of the videos might even make you laugh and some might make you cry. But of course, you get inspired, motivated, and more even elevated. See you on the next video on Women's World Show.